From the campus lights to the game day fight, Texas dust on the boots, packed out stands in the sun. Every school has a story, every season has one. Turn it up, lean in close, hear that crowd start to roll. The Corey Home Sports Show, the Corey Home Sports Show. Big stories and real conversations, bring the truth, let it roll. The Corey Home Sports Show, the Corey Home Sports Show. For the schools beyond the spotlight, where the heart of the game still shows.
This is the Corey Hogue Sports Show, Monday, August 10th, episode number 13. Big thank you to anyone who's listening on whatever podcast platform you find us on, or if you're watching Facebook, YouTube, Substack. I got to tell you, did not get in trouble with my son. Like and subscribe, please, on all the platforms, Facebook, YouTube, anything you can. Subscribe on Substack. Please like and subscribe. We want to thank you for watching. Get those comments in as well. Get whatever it is you want to talk about in there, and we will get to those as the show progresses. Some new things that came out on the Substack today, and it was the 5-question series got started today, as my screen just decided to go crazy a little bit for no reason. Love that. Let me get that fixed again, if I can. Or maybe I can't. Anyway, the 5-question series started last Friday with the NJCAA and moved itself to today. I had the Sooner Athletic Conference. We're going to be going Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You can find those. So the next one's coming out Wednesday, and we're going to head up into the Division III, and it will finish on the Wednesday before the season starts with the United Athletic Conference. Don't forget, Thursday night, March to the Pod will be on the podcast. It'll be live at 6 o'clock talking about everything Sam Houston, a lot to talk about. Soccer, it's beginning this week. The 26-27 athletic year starts this weekend with soccer. So definitely head over to March to the Pod. Sam Houston got a big donation sponsorship agreement last week. There's more stuff coming down. Definitely want to pay attention there. And while we're talking about it, I do want to update you. Right now, I'm not planning a show for Wednesday. That could change if there is enough to discuss. We'll see. We'll see. I'm not planning it. Doesn't mean it won't be one. But I will be back on Friday. Not having the Wednesday show, it allows me to get some more content up, some more things up. Stuff coming out today. The NCAA, they had some stuff come out where they're working with the FBI on sexual exploitation. You know, I'm not really going to get into that too much. My thought is it took this long to get that done. This has been a problem for a while. That's my thought. But anyway, let's get into the show. I want to start the recipe for consistent success. I've told you before, it is not a secret. It is there. It is a known recipe. The problem is it's not easy. And Oklahoma, I can say that maybe, Oklahoma City Thunder general manager Sam Presti had some interesting comments talking about the process, which is the process philosophy we talk about often with Nick Saban. It goes right into what we talk about with the earn philosophy of effort, attitude, response, no quit. Let's hear what Sam Presti had. Here's a clip of what Sam Presti had to say.
Every year, our goal is to repeat a process, not chase an outcome. This process is to position our team and our organization so that if we are fortunate enough to have things break our way, we can achieve ultimate success. This is how every NBA champion is able to achieve success.
I find it interesting that he also alludes to the one thing that a few weeks ago I mentioned, and that is ultimate success takes fortune. It does. It requires some fortune. No matter how much effort, attitude, response, no matter how well you do the earn philosophy, the process philosophy, it may not always mean a championship because it takes some fortune. It just does. It requires fortune to get the ultimate success. But the recipe for consistently having an opportunity to achieve success and to win an NBA title, it's not a secret. It's a process. And it's a process that Sam Presti knows. And that is why the Oklahoma City Thunder are consistently at the top of the NBA. There's some other things he had to say. I clipped that video from Josh Chambers on X. There were some other things he had to say. The entire video is really good. It was about 2 minutes long, but I didn't want to play all that. That part right there, that 25, 30-second clip was what I thought to be the absolute best part of what he said. But the entire thing about how it's not easy. It's not a secret. It's not easy. And it requires you to go back and restart that process. And he even talked about building a team that you would want to be a part of. That locker room matters. Build, recruit, find those players that you would want to be a part of as well. So the recipe's not easy. The recipe's not a secret. You can do it. But you got to earn it. Effort, attitude, response, no excuses, and then start that process over again all the time. Speaking of a process starting over again, the Protect College Sports Act of 2026, it's on hold while the Senate takes a break. They did not, as expected, we talked about it Friday, as expected, they did not get it passed before they left for their summer break. And, they not even in the dead of night when they were trying to get some other things through. The other thing about it is because of the amendments put in there by the Senate, this act still will have to go through the House of Representatives and get passed again by there without any changes for it to go for a signature. This look, the process of a bill, it can be messy. You know this if you remember your government classes. Some people like to say civics. It was government for us. The process can be messy. There's a House that passes a bill, Senate passes a bill. They have to get together. They have to iron out the details. Then it's got to get passed again before it can go up and get a signature just to become a law. And so the amendments we talked about Friday, there were 3 more amendments put on by senators before the 10 o'clock time frame came that evening. The bill was pretty much doomed anyway at that point. Then on the House side, you had the Black Congressional Caucus members come out and say they did not agree with some of the stuff in there or that it wasn't enough. Whatever their issue is, they have an issue with it from the HBCU side. The bill is not dead. They're coming back in 3 weeks. It's going to be on the legislative calendar. It could receive a vote. It could go through. I got to tell you, though, to me, the most realistic timeline is probably December if it's going to get passed. And then if you're passing it in December, you might not want to start anything on that until July 1st next year, after this current athletic academic year is up. It would make sense. Don't expect it. That would make sense. So with the PCSA, I was digging into it. I had some stories ready to go, some on Sam Houston, and I had one looking at it from the non-FBS point of view. So let's take a look at it. This is as the bill stands now in the Senate, the Senate's version of the bill, once they posted it online. I broke it into some things. And of course, the big one we talk about first is the eligibility, the 5-for-5 standard. It would be a federal standard. It directly impacts the Division I, the FCS. It also directly impacts Division II athletes, but not Division III, not NAIA and not NJCAA. JUCO's not included in that particular 5-year provision. Now, NCAA waiver disputes could become less flexible because Congress, rather than merely an association bylaw, that would establish a basic clock. They're doing this instead. If you're going to put a 5-for-5 and you're going to put a federal standard, and this is your Protect College Sports Act, let's protect all of them. It has to be uniform. Otherwise, you're setting it up for more legal fights. Let's stop making the attorneys money. Stop it. Just FBS, FCS, D2 is not enough. It's got to go D3 all the way down. There's some other things, too, in the PCSA that don't go all the way down. The other part of this, though, on the eligibility rule is the one transfer rule. Now, there is a caveat to that. It's one transfer unless the sport is discontinued at a school, the head coach leaves, a sexual assault or harassment happens, or enrollment in a graduate program. I love those. I love every part of that. Let's just make it uniform. In the end, if they make this uniform throughout, it could produce a little more roster stability and help this current environment where you've got players playing 5 years at 5 different schools. You could still have that. You could. Coaches leave, people discontinue sports, graduate program. I mean, it could happen, but it would be under a system we all know, rather than right now. It's just haywire. Feels like a free agency. For Division II and Division III, the same 4-year transfer protections are there because it's written very broadly rather than being restricted to just Division I. However, once again, here we are. Junior college, the wording matters. It would affect NAIA. Why? Because it says it governs transfers from one 4-year institution to another 4-year institution. So that would cover NAIA as well, but not junior college. What about them? They have got to get all of this. Look at the things that you're not getting. There's no point in passing a bill that just isn't going to last and hold up to scrutiny and cause more lawsuits and more questions and more potential problems. We've had enough of that. Just get it done the right way. Take the time necessary. If it takes till the next legislative session, so be it. So be it. But it's got to be done right. Some other things in the PCSA, the NIL, it protects scholarships from being reduced or revoked merely because an athlete has an NIL agreement. I think that's a good idea. That's protection for athletes. And athletes would have to disclose deals that exceed $600. That's fine. That works well. It can happen at D1. You are putting a little more on the compliance departments. Southland, UAC, SWAC, FCS programs are operating under that one federal NIL framework instead of all these different patchwork state laws that we have right now. Some of these smaller athletic departments, though, would still need compliance systems capable of tracking the disclosures and determining whether deals have legitimate business purposes. And also, athletes being required to disclose deals exceeding $600. Does anyone at all see a potential problem where athletes don't disclose deals? Do we? We should. There's got to be something in there for this. D2, D3, NAIA would get some greater certainty on some of that. Although at those lower levels, some database enforcement provisions are not limited to them, but they are limited to D1. D1 it has the enforcement, the compliance framework requirements. D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO, it does not right now. Again, let's make this uniform. And if you're going to do this, and then you're going to expect compliance departments to work, the NCAA, if you're going to go over 600, maybe they need to approve a deal. Similar to what MLB does, NFL does with all the contracts. Maybe that's an answer. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is. And if that's the case, then you're helping out these compliance departments. And if you do it by division, FBS, FCS, D2, D3, etc., and they're, now they get the staffing for it, it can happen. But again, that becomes a question of money. And there's just not a lot around right now. So when you start looking at adding compliance to the NCAA divisions or the NAIA, JUCO, this is where you start to get into some touchy ground, because they might not have that money. That money just isn't as available as it seems, and especially not as available as it is for the bigger colleges and bigger conferences. One other point in the PCSA, representation for smaller conferences. It defines a mid-sized conference as one generating less than $500 million in annual revenue. This is for the FCS, think Southland UAC SWAC. It would require national governing boards and rulemaking committees to provide adequate representation for those conferences. But what is adequate? What does adequate? You're going to have to define that. Because if you think adequate is them getting one vote and they're still completely suffocated in the vote totals by the FBS team, FBS schools, it's not. That's not workable. That's not adequate representation, in my opinion. It would have to be a number that could potentially keep some rule changes from happening, etc. That's the only way they're going to get adequate representation. Again, some of this is just very broad. There is a part of an increased athlete voice in the PCSA. At least 1/3. Now we have a standard. 1/3 of the membership and voting power on the National Association governing boards and major rulemaking committees would have to consist of current athletes or athletes who graduated within the previous 10 years. This can work as long as you don't just need 50% to pass. Here you got 1/3 of the membership being athletes current or within 10 years. Give them a voice in some of these rulemaking committees and some of these governing boards. I like that idea. That could help see some major governance changes across all three NCAA divisions. And also, because the language in it is more of an organization, that could be reaching NAIA and the JUCO ranks as well. Athletes would have a formal role in the eligibility, the safety, the competition rules, instead of just an advisory capacity, which they have right now. Those student advisory committees, and they don't get listened to very well by once you get to the NCAA level. Another provision in the PCSA that I like it, and also would like to see a little more, are some medical protections for the athletes. Division I institutions would be required to cover out-of-pocket expenses for sports-related injuries, independent second opinions, catastrophic insurance, and end-of-college physicals. D2 and D3 are generally included only when their athletes compete at the D1 level. So this is something that's going to be a D1 expense. And it's hard to put this down to D2 and D3 unless you're going to make some money available. And we are already in debt so far. How are you going to do that? But the NCAA would be required to establish a fund for certain post-eligibility medical expenses for athletes from D2, D3, and D1. It has promise, that provision has promise. Again, the devil is in the details. What would be those post-eligibility expenses? Would have to be specific. It would have to be clear. Otherwise, again, you're just paying attorneys to fight. Some of the stuff for the HBCUs, sports and media connectivity program would be added. It would authorize competitive grants for broadband, information technology, sports production equipment, live event distribution, and local journalism education at eligible HBCUs. They would get better campus broadcast facilities. It would improve the production quality for digital games. They'd be able to have capacity to distribute more of their Olympic sports, expanded student training in sports media and journalism, which is always needed, better connectivity at institutions with aging infrastructure, which is a problem at a lot of places, especially HBCUs. I like this. I'm not sure. I didn't get into or dig into, and I don't know that they even made specific what the Congressional Black Caucus problem is. I would think they don't have a problem with this area. They might be looking for something else on top of it somewhere, along with the athlete provisions or something of that nature. But I think overall that could be a positive. My overall thoughts on the PCSA, it's more stability, but it is far from a solution for everyone at every level. And unless you're going to come up with something that can be as much for everyone at every level as we could possibly as humans have happen, you're leaving things undone and you're leaving problems to happen. If you're going to do it right. My confidence in it being done right, slim and none. Let's face it. It's dysfunctional in Washington. It's dysfunctional a lot of places. I would love to see them be functional. I will praise them if they are. Reality is likely something different. Moving on. Texas A&M Texarkana. Big media push unveiling a new logo. So let's take a look at the video that they released at 10 o'clock this morning. That was the video they released showing their new logo and new brand. And if you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube or Substack, you can see the new logo there. Now, before I get into kind of some thoughts on this, let's look at the old logo. There it is. The old logo was kind of an eagle head, looked really kind of clip arty. It's okay. The new one is definitely better. I do think they improved. I love the colors. You could have a light blue home jersey, a dark blue away jersey, a white home jersey with it. There's some options you have there. The logo itself looks a little less clip arty. I mean, listen, when it comes to these things, how do you get a logo that's not around, especially when you're the Eagles? A logo that looks more original. It's difficult. But what I do like about this is that Texas A&M Texarkana is not coming into this new era of Division II in football without they're making some statements. And if they're doing this, hopefully that leads to success on the field. Time will tell. But I like this. I like it. It's a good move. I'm for anyone who wants to improve it. What I'm not for are teams that change logos every 2 years. That we got to get off of that, right? That's just how that goes. Other news, quickly, that has come around. Cannon Gibson reported last week has left the Abilene Christian program. He was one of, I think, 5 or 6 quarterbacks competing in that quarterback room at ACU. Nebraska transfer Marcos Davila. He is considered the front runner. He's the one that majority of the louder fans on social media will want. Other people in the room right now: sophomore John David Black, Western Kentucky transfer Tucker Parks, and Wichita Falls Memorial former Rider freshman Jed Castles, whose brother been a tight end on that roster for years, is also there. I think Jed Castles is one of these days will be a good one. He'll probably take a redshirt year if I were him, or if it's the 5-for-5 eligibility rule, sit out. But he's the future, in my opinion. But Cannon Gibson, he started at West Texas A&M, transferred to UT Permian Basin last year, had a really good year. Then entered the portal again. Head coach Chris McCullough left, departed for the FCS. And so Gibson transferred to Abilene Christian. He did tell KMID TV in Midland that he didn't feel the love for the game. Some of the sources I reached out to said it just wasn't a good fit for him at Abilene. And listen, Abilene Christian's not a place for everybody. Not every place is a place for everybody, period. But especially at Abilene Christian. You're in a Church of Christ school. There are different things, different standards, some different rules apply that don't apply at other schools, public schools, and things like UTPB. So I understand. Hope Cannon Gibson can catch on somewhere, reestablish that love for football, and go out and put on some shows this year. Also, UIW, about an hour and a half ago now, announced that they were beginning a nationwide search for an AD. And I had that column pulled up, and now I don't. So let me get that pulled up again here. Get back over to UIW's website. You apologize for that. They launched a national search. Now, remember, their director of athletics, Richard Duran, left and went to Northern Colorado. And last week or week before, they announced an interim. They announced 2 people pretty much serving in the interim position. Now, today, they announced they have partnered with athletics admin to identify their next, the actual full-time director of athletics. They're going to evaluate qualified candidates, and they're also appointing a small search committee to assist throughout the process. They did not announce a definitive timeline for that process, but they did say they anticipate its next director of athletics coming around the winter of 26-27. So winter sports are usually November to February. So that's kind of a time frame where they kind of hope to have a person named as their next director of athletics. Whoever is selected will be the 5th full-time director of athletics during UIW's Division I era. They also said if you want to apply, UIWAD.com. Go there. Learn about the university, the athletics, and learn how to apply. And applications receive full consideration if submitted by Friday, September 11th. So UIW will go, it appears. This doesn't necessarily mean they're going out of house, but it signals that they're going out of house. You're usually not opening it up to a national search if you plan on keeping one of the people in house. Just my opinion on that. That is not always the case in this, but it does feel that way. And that is it. right at a half hour for today's show. Remember, not planning one for Wednesday. Likely will only be back on Friday. Until then, keep it tuned to CoreyHoagSports.substack.com. There's lots of good stuff coming out here, including on Thursday. I'm going to release a story to get us all prepared for this new year of football with updated rule changes for 2026. Until then, have a fantastic week and stay blessed.
It's clear, sharp and bold, covering every team, every season, every story worth being told. The Corey Hoag Sports Show, the Corey Hoag Sports Show. Big stories and real conversations, bring the truth, let it